Good morning. Welcome to this devotion at the beginning of this week. Last week, I received a WhatsApp in one of the clergy WhatsApp groups to which I belong, and it was one of these memes. You know what that is? It's a kind of a brochure, and the message in it was to say that clergy had been given special permission now to move around despite the lockdown regulations of level 5. And it kind of looked, not quite, but it looked semi-official. And just 30 minutes later, after getting that meme, we then got a message to say that that was fake news. And that thing had me thinking. I was kind of going, I wonder who made that original message. I wonder, was it someone who was trying to get ministers into trouble? And I'm not joking, going, was it someone trying to get the clergy to walk around town and then get arrested? I think that's unlikely, but I did wonder it. And then I wondered, could it possibly be that there was a minister or some ministers who decided that they had work they'd wanted to do, and so they were going to kind of create their own permission, and so they put out this meme. It made me wonder why people would want to lie, why people would want to create fake news that they know is fake because there isn't permission to do that. We live in a world in which fake news is popular. And technology is making this so much harder. I mean, people can create those little brochure type things that look official. And there's this newish technology that's come out. It's called deepfake video. And what deepfake video allows you to do is to take an actual video of a real person saying real things, and you can then adapt their face. You can even manipulate their mouth so it looks like they're saying different words. And you could put different words in people's mouths to get them to say all these kind of false things. And it's getting harder and harder to know what the truth is. One of the things I really want to encourage us to do during these days is to begin to write down the lessons we are learning through lockdown. I think it would be an incredible tragedy if we were to come away from this not having recorded, not having remembered what it is that we have learned and are learning, and not just to have it mentally in our minds, but to be able to record in a way that would enable us to change our behavior. I think one of the massive tragedies amongst all the tragedies that are going on now, I think one of the massive tragedies that will happen for humanity is that we don't change our behavior. If all we do is hanker after what was and we don't find a new way forward, I think that would be a very sad thing. One of the great lessons of COVID-19 has been how important truthfulness is. It has been quite remarkable to watch around the world and to see how some of the greatest nations, largest nations in our world have played so fast and loose with the truth. They have done various things from, at first, perhaps not being as open as they could have been about the progress of the virus across the world. They have hidden some of the information that could have been revealed. And all of it apparently, I think, in the name of perhaps national pride. Some of it has been for political expedience, and I think quite a lot of it has been around economics. And so we've heard phrases like people saying the coronavirus is a hoax. It's an endeavor by an opposing political party to undermine the current leadership that's in power. And there's been this wash of untruthfulness, and then as it became impossible to defend those positions, then people have swapped their positions again. And so we've seen this remarkable wave of untruthfulness, of lying, of deception, of changing of positions and minds. And so the thing that has become so precious, I mean, like really a great treasure in the world, has been for those who have been able to speak truthfully. I think one of the great commodities of 2020 is those who are able to speak truth. As South Africans, I think we can be very grateful that despite the fact that our government has made some errors, I mean, who's done this before? And there are some real frustrations for us about why some things are happening and other things aren't. That at the end of the day, it feels for me like on the whole, compared to some other nations, we are being spoken to truthfully. One of my deep prayers, and it really is a sincere prayer at this time, is I'm praying, Lord, will you expose the lies that have been told in these months? Will you expose the fake news? Will you allow truth to emerge? Lord, will you allow those who have lied and cost people their lives? Will you allow that truth to emerge? Lord, let truth be known. Let truth be seen in our world. King David, one of the great characters of the Old Testament, famous for the Psalms he wrote and his leadership in Israel, was also, despite being known as a man after God's own heart, was also a flawed human being, like all of us. And perhaps his most famous sin was his adultery with Bathsheba. And woven into that story of his adultery was his attempted and then effective murder, really, of Bathsheba's husband. So he is both an adulterer and a murderer. And he would naturally not have wanted people to know about his activities, but God, by his Spirit, inspires the prophet Nathan to go and confront David for his sinfulness, because God wants truth to be revealed. And so David is confronted, and he walks away from that confrontation, deeply remorseful, deeply chastised, and then writes what is really one of the most powerful pieces of poetry, I think, known to humankind. We know it as Psalm 51. And then obviously, as we know well, different translations express things differently, but I like the older translation that includes this sentence that says, the psalmist says of the Lord, "Surely you desire truth in the inner parts." Won't you hear that again? Surely you desire truth in the inner parts. Truthfulness is not easy for us as human beings. It's hard for us to confront the truth about ourselves. It's one of the great challenges of being human. It's hard for us to confront truthfulness in our families and to come to, in a sense, a realization of sometimes about who we actually are. I think it's hard to confront truthfulness sometimes in our cultures. As a person whose life has been given to working with what people believe and don't believe, I've often encountered our struggles and my own struggles with shifting our beliefs and coming to new and deeper realizations of truth. And so truth is in fact a more difficult thing with which to live than we realize. It's complicated to live truthfully with one another, because sometimes we prefer to not be truthful with one another, because being truthful will either hurt someone or alienate someone, and to get that right is difficult. It's hard for us to live truthfully in our families. It's hard for us to live truthfully in the workplace. And it's hard for us to live truthfully in church environments, in faith communities. I think, as I've said, one of the great commodities for us in life is to be able to learn to tell the truth properly. Recently, there's been one of these pieces of fake news floating around about Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci, who's the epidemiologist from America, about how they apparently, says the fake news, have conspired to propagate this virus and that they are behind its presence in our world. And I saw 2 interviews with Bill Gates over this weekend, 2 separate interviews, and they asked him how he felt about this conspiracy theory and this fake news that's been going around. And he just said he found it so interesting that, as someone who's on record, he did a TED talk in 2015, someone who's on record for having tried to warn the world about this virus and how they could respond to prevent a virus like this happening, or how to deal with it when it came. And as someone who, through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, has worked really hard to rid the world of curable diseases and give themselves really to world health in so many ways. And he said he just finds it interesting that someone who's committed to that would be attacked in this way. And I think it's a really worthwhile question to ask. What is it in the human spirit that rejoices in untruthfulness? What is it in the human spirit that seeks to undermine good? What is it about us that finds this kind of thing so hard? Followers of Jesus are followers of the one who declared himself to be the way, the truth, and the life. And I believe in these days, in these very complicated, messy days in which lots of information is going around, we are called upon to be the people who are responsible in the way we deal with truth. To be careful about who we listen to and what we listen to, how we share it, how we spread it. To be careful in allowing ourselves to grow in truthfulness in our relationships and in our communities. We are the followers of the truth. And may God bless you this day, and thank you for joining us.